Secretary Alcoholic, there is a part of the Navajo Nation that is an open wound on the conscience of this country. I'm referring to the former Bennett Freeze area. Almost 40 years of government neglect, government indifference, and government incompetence, this area is a hollowed shell almost unfit for human inhabitation. But people do live there, and they want to live there. These determined Navajo want to stake their future in this land that Washington, D.C. almost destroyed. What has the BIA done since the Bennett Freeze was lifted last year to help the Navajo? And what is the BIA proposing?
Congressman, first of all, just as a side note, I'm a member of the Pawnee Nation. Pawnee people originally from Nebraska relocated into Oklahoma, but I actually grew up in Farmington, New Mexico, which is right across the river, the San Juan River, from the largest reservation in the nation, that's Navajo. And I am familiar with the Navajo reservation because I spent about 17 years living in that area, and I'm well aware of the controversy that the Hopi and Navajo nations had, for several years. And it appears that most of that has been resolved today, but we unfortunately had the Bennett Freeze, which pretty much stopped development in a large portion of lands in that area. And the administration does offer up in the budget, I think it's $1.2 million for development of the Bennett Freeze. That's in this 2012 budget proposal of the President, which is meant to do several things to improve range land management and agricultural land use. We're going to be pushing for sustained effort because a lot of work needs to be done to make those lands productive for the people that are living there.
There just doesn't seem to be the urgency at the BIA to rebuild the FA. If a flood or a hurricane had destroyed this area, we would declare a national emergency and send help. Well, I'm here to tell you that this area is a disaster. It's a national disaster created by an act of the government instead of an act of God, but a natural disaster just the same. Will you help persuade the President to declare this area a national emergency so we can expedite assistance?
Congressman, I note your request and we'll take that under consideration. We'd be happy to work with you on that.
Thank you. In looking at that, I've met with representatives of numerous Native tribes, both inside my district and out. They express a strong resentment at the BIA in micromanaging their issues, stonewalling, and inefficiency. I am grounded in the principle that people at the local level know a lot more on how they have to appropriate need than does the bureaucrats in D.C. The tribal representatives tell me they would prefer block grants that would allow them to prioritize their needs and set in motion the projects they deem important in the time and manner they choose. Since we're having to do more with less due to our financial crisis, what are your thoughts about block grants?
Congressman, we would be interested in looking at alternatives like that. Block grants, that's not something that presently, is done in full force within the realm of our responsibilities. But, I would like to note some interesting things that have occurred since the mid-1970s. Oftentimes people say that we're not paying attention to self-determination, but I'm just looking at a chart here that goes back to 1973 when the Bureau of Indian Affairs had 18,285 employees, 18,285. And today that has dropped down to just a little over 8,000. So there's been a constant decline in the number of federal employees. And what this really means is that the responsibilities have been transferred to tribes. And I note that today, about 1/2 of all BIA programs are operated and administered and managed by tribes. 1/2 of all BIA programs, and when it comes to the Bureau of Indian Education, it's 2/3 of all BIE activities. So this chart and those figures indicate that we do pay attention to self-determination, and I note that the self-determination policy was initiated 40 years ago under the Nixon administration, where that was followed up in 1975 by the enactment of the Indian Self-Determination Act. So once that foundation was put in place, you've seen a gradual development of recognizing greater authority and autonomy for tribal governments, and we will continue to pursue that course.
Thank you.